Today, I am freaking excited because Lumberjack Tools has sent down here the full starter set, the commercial starter set for making log furniture. We have everything we need except for a drill and basically a tape measure. You get giant tenon cutters, you get a draw knife, giant Forstner bits, you get a vise for holding logs so you can peel your logs, and you can use your tenon cutters and drill holes in them while they're secure in this. Everything you need, including a nice little project book. So if you're starting as a beginner doing this, you don't have to think about how to plan out your project. That part is taken care of with the book, so you can concentrate on learning how to use the tools, becoming proficient doing this. So later down the line, you can plan out your own projects because you're really only limited by your own imagination when it comes to this stuff. Let's get in here. We'll take it out of the box and set it all up, and then we're gonna throw a log in this vise and we'll start peeling. We got our user manual for the commercial series. We got a plastic shim here for setting up our blade. Forstner bits, Diablo. We got 1 inch, 1.5. 2-inch bits. Jumping ahead a little, we got our blades. Caution sharp. Blades we're going to install ourselves. 3 sets of those. And oh man, look at this thing. I don't know if you can read that, but it says made in the USA, which is not something I often get to say on this channel. These are beautiful. This is our 10-inch draw knife. That is sharp. Lumberjack Tools, made in the USA. Instructions on how to sharpen, standard operation, and then we got a big old vise. Log diameter 1.5 to 4.5. Log lock, made in the USA. Fancy that. It's easier to cut the box. Wow, that's thick. Very cool. That's some serious metal right there. Got our user manual, hardware kit, same heavy stock on the top pieces. Get that put together. This commercial starter kit also comes with a plan book. Nicely laid out plan book. Everything from bunk beds to Adirondack chairs, gun stands, of course. Can't have a log furniture plan book without a gun stand. Adirondack chair, honestly, I really want to try building one of those. Probably 2. And then because the wood that we're going to be using in this was cut within the last couple months, they recommended this grizzly glue, polyurethane glue for wood that's still kind of wet. They recommended this, so they sent it down. So it's pretty heavy duty stuff. It's all about 5mm or so. All the parts of this are the same stock, and they all look pretty nice. This is very easy to put together. I'm not going to bore you with a ton of that. Let me finish putting this together, and we'll get back and see how it works. It's a pretty cool design. Nice and simple. You got this bolt that slides. It's going to be a lot of noise in this one. You got your ladder right there, so you can slide that up. And then this bolt here slides in this channel right here, and you can slide it right into the slot here. Your washer there. There you go. Nice and simple. It's got a spring on here that keeps this all together. Very nice. We gotta find a board to screw this to so I can clamp it to the table, but looks like a nice quality piece. See how it works here in a minute. All right, it's time to install the blades in our tenon cutters. So each kit, each cutter comes with a pair of shims, a pair of blades, obviously. You get 4 screws for attaching them and an Allen key in each kit. Our shim is now going to come in handy. So to set these up is very simple. You want 3/16 gap here. The shim is exactly 3/16 gap. So you just put the blade on, screws in, set your gap, and you go. You simply install just like that. Install your screws, screw it down, put your shim. Simple and easy to recheck. Just don't lose your shim. We got just a plain V here. And this side is flat. So basically we slide this over. Per the instructions, you always want this side here with the ladder lower than the side with the screw. So we're just gonna slide that over. This holds these logs surprisingly well. Considering there's no knurling or anything, I mean rock solid. And it's very easy to loosen it up and reposition it. You do want to make sure you're all the way in the ladder here. It should be at a 10 to 15 degree pitch here, and then 10 and 15 degrees to one side. Per the instruction manual, that is the ideal pair of angles to use this with. Make pretty short work of this. You can make nice long strips out of it. For someone who's never done this before, this is fairly easy to do. Very nice draw knife. Works exactly as I would expect it would. So far in this video, I've done a few examples just for me without the camera on, just so I could see what it was like to peel a log, cut a tenon, what it would look like, how straight it would be. And in a second here, I'm going to show you guys. But the bane of my existence for the past over a month is trying to find identifiable, usable wood. This doesn't look too bad, but I don't know what it is. So it's hard for me to tell you, hey, these tenon cutters will cut this oak like butter. They probably will cut oak like butter, but I have no idea. It cut this like butter, but I don't know what this is. And this came from the same lot. And it's very fibrous. It's like peeling a coconut. And this is some kind of weed tree, I assume. You guys can tell me. I'll show you this up close here in just a second. I found tons of this stuff, which is great. And if it's just for me, for my project, I don't care. I'm just out here having fun. I found a bunch of usable, I have a giant pile of this stuff. Some of it's a lot longer than this. A lot of it's pretty straight enough to use, but I don't know what it is. I don't want to be the guy from the city cutting tenons into weed trees and making log furniture out of that. I found these. These are 2 inches by 4 feet. You can get them at Home Depot. They're dowel rods. I figured perfect. This is pine. We'll just do pine and we'll make something, and this should be ridiculously easy because it is straight as an arrow. However, this is not cut from the center of a log. When you cut a tenon into this, it's just jagged, it looks nasty. We could probably sand it and make this usable, but it cuts horribly because you're cutting across the grain. Not good. So here's what I came up with, and here's what we're gonna use. This comes out to about $2.60 a linear foot. I got a pack of 4 8-foot poles for 85 bucks, and some of it's a little discolored. I don't really care for this project. So I cut our 4 uprights that we're gonna use. These definitely border on almost too small. They get to about 1.5 inches, which is bare minimum for this cutter setup. Here is some examples of these found logs. This, I suspect, is a weed tree. It's real fibrous. This dulled that draw knife like crazy. I had to sharpen the draw knife because of peeling this. What are we gonna build? We're gonna build this. A simple firewood holder. The smaller sections on this plan are gonna end up being the thickest one I have because I only have one that's this thick. All the rest of them were about 2 inches. This one's about 2.5. So is that gonna look weird? Probably, but it is the best bet I can do. I couldn't cut a 27 out of this unless I took this off. Layout is sometimes difficult, especially if you're limited to what you can use. We have tons of this stuff, but I can't identify it, and I don't want to build something out of it for a video. So I might build something for myself afterwards, just for fun out of this stuff, but what I'm going to show you guys is this birch. So we're going to cut some tenons, and we're going to build us a firewood holder. This project is supposed to have 3-inch, but obviously you get what you get here. So what we're going to do is scale this down. Instead of the 1.5-inch cutter, we're going to use the 1 And then we're gonna use the 1-inch Forstner bit. To get the correct depth, the hole in the back of this thing, down in there, that is 2.9 inches from here to here. And what we need is our hole in our log to be half as deep as this log is thick. So if we got 2 inches, say, we're gonna want the hole to be 1 inch. So we're gonna wanna stop this, because if we just run it to the end, we're gonna have an almost 3-inch tenon sticking out of our log, and that's obviously gonna be too much. So what we're gonna do is use this junk log, and I cut the tenon almost to the end here, and we're gonna cut this. So you want a 1/4 inch of space behind your tenon in your hole. So if your hole is 1 inch, you want your tenon to be about 3/4. That's gonna be about 2 1/4, maybe a touch more. I wish they made that tenon cutter 3 inches just for the sake of math, but it is what it is. So let me cut this, and we're gonna use this and insert it down in that hole there so we get a correct depth. They do sell cutters that have a slot and a bolt that goes through the neck of this, so you can adjust for depth without fooling around with this. Let me chop this off, we'll shove it in there, and we're gonna start cutting some tenons. That should give us a 3/4 tenon here. Let's try one out and see how it does. This is seriously fun to use. I'm not gonna lie to you, seriously fun. It's exactly 3/4. Doesn't seem like much, but would probably be better to have a bigger tenon. But that actually turned out pretty nice. Turned out pretty good. Pretty straight too. Oh, that's super easy with these. Those things seriously cut like butter. So you know, every time I do this, I check the tightness of this chuck. This chuck has never loosened up on me once, but this thing is big, and I'm sure it puts a lot of pressure on this. Must have got a little high with that one. Most of these I got straight as an arrow almost. Well, let's not go as straight as an arrow, but this one, totally lopsided. Clearly I got off to one side, and these tenon cutters work so fast that it'll happen in a second, you won't notice it, so you gotta make sure you're lined up straight. So we need a couple 15.5s. We're gonna use the fatter section because this is gonna get in the way, so I would have liked to have used this for one of the legs, but it is what it is. This is just for fun project, honestly. So much better than the Sawzall, honestly, for this. I had these pre-marked, but I did not take into consideration the thickness, the kerf of that chain. Not used to using a chainsaw for any kind of woodworking project. The 19s are just gonna get holes in them. The 15.5s are gonna get tenon on both sides. A little straighter, sorta. This is gonna take a little practice. There you go, 115. Tenons on both sides. This is a little bit wet, this wood too. We'll use that polyurethane glue. A minute adjustment to the angle of that drill makes a massive difference in the end of this tenon right here. I was gonna skip over the 23s and just get to drilling holes here, but there's a big knot on this one, so let's see how the tenon cutter handles the knot. Yeah, could care less. These tenon cutters are amazing. They are a lot of fun to use. They're very easy to use. I am seriously impressed with these. Look, I actually got one straight enough to be proud of. You get the hang of it, but it is a minute adjustment to get these things straight. So we're gonna drill our holes. We got 8 holes to drill in the bottom of these legs. All of them will have holes that are 4 inches from the bottom and 6 inches from the bottom. But because they're staggered, we're gonna have to pay attention. You got A, B, B, and it tells you not to get them confused because you got from 6 inches from the bottom and 4 inches, but they're different. So we're gonna have to pay attention to where we mark these. Ideally, I'm gonna get these facing the front, this side on all of these, because that's the best looking side on all of them. There's some ugly ducklings in here, but it is what it is. If I don't accomplish that, I don't accomplish it. I'm not super worried about it. I just want to get everything straight. This is the cut side that came when I got these, and I should have straightened those out and made sure they were flat because they're going to be the legs, and I didn't. So we might have to take maybe the palm sander to them and just straighten them out at the end, make sure it's not wobbly. But for a first project, I'm just gonna try and concentrate on not screwing up the holes and getting it together. We got our Diablo 1-inch Forstner bit. I'm sure that's gonna be nice and sharp. All right, I got them marked, so these will be in the front. I have this marked at 1 inch, so I can kind of gauge while I'm doing this. So let's get this in the drill and the vise, and let's see what happens. Probably take a knife and just put a little bevel, cut that bark just nice and tight. And we might have to pound it in. We might have to just clean this up ever so slightly. They do say not to do that, but let's see what happens here. Diablo Forstner bits work nice. I've actually never used these. These work nice too. Everything about this kit is top of the line. Everything here works really, really nice. Just gonna take a utility knife, ever so slightly, clean up that edge so it looks a little bit nicer. That way I'm not tearing the bark while I'm trying to get this in and out of here. Sharp utility knife will make short work of that. That looks a lot better. There you go. A lot better, in my opinion. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. A little better. All right, let's get our other holes cut, and we'll see how this thing fits together. I think one of the hardest things will be is, there's my 4-inch hole. This will be my 6-inch hole, 6 inches from the bottom, but these have to be 90 degrees from each other. That'll probably be the hardest thing, short of the orientation, which I think I got correct. We're gonna find out here right now. This last one here, I'm trying to get my holes in line. So a hole here, 1.5 inches from the end, and one here. I think I'm just going to leave it in the vise and do both sides, try and get them both facing the same direction. Can't see my tape. Just like that, we got all our parts made. We got 4 legs. These are the toppers, the spreaders, and then the little spreaders front to back. I wish those weren't so fat, but it is what it is. If it looks goofy, it looks goofy. If it fits and everything goes together, I'll be happy for a first little project. And arguably the easiest one in there. We are probably, they say not to do it, but I'm probably gonna have to take a little sandpaper to this. Let's see what happens. An old buddy called me up and sent down just about every type and grit of this sandpaper you could imagine. This is made by Rust-Oleum, Gator Pro Spec, Reptilian. I got a ton of this stuff, so you're gonna see it more and more, but let's use some pretty coarse grit, maybe not 40. We'll try 80. And I'm just gonna clean up these tenons just ever so slightly. I wonder if this is happening because this wood is kind of wet. It really didn't do that with the other logs, the trial logs, but see what happens. We're in an age where everything has to be cool looking. I'm doing this kind of awkward, but I'm really not trying to take much off. I just want to clean this off a little bit. See how that works. I'm gonna dry fit this up without any glue, but man, these things fit tight. Seriously tight. We might not actually need to put glue on this in the end. Let's see what happens. There we go. That sits flat. There we go. Sits flat. Good enough. Look at that. Probably adjust this just a little bit. Just like that, we got a firewood holder. This project was fun. I'm gonna tell you honestly, this is one of the more fun things I've done on this channel in a while. Just gonna take this back apart and then we'll put some glue on it and let it sit. Well, everything fits, so this should be pretty straightforward. Grizzly glue. Ready to use, waterproof, expands as it dries. Open time, 20 to 30 minutes. Clamp time, 2 to 5 hours. Polyurethane liquid glue. You can store this in the freezer, which I thought was interesting. Never used this stuff, ever. We're just gonna pour it on a plate. I'm gonna use this foam applicator. We'll see how that plays out. It says it's good for polyurethane paint, so let's hope that translates to glue. We'll find out right now. This is what Lumberjack Tools recommended. They sent this to me because I said the wood that I was going to be using was most likely going to be fairly wet. So they said, that's not a problem. You can use wood that was fresh cut, but this is the glue you're gonna want. So we're gonna go a thin layer on both pieces, and we're just gonna hammer this stuff together. Little bit of squeeze out there. We'll give it another tappy tap at the end here. We'll tap everything together. I might actually clamp some of this together. There is a fair amount of adjusting you can do to this once you have it together. I won't bore you with all this. I'll do the other side, and then once I'm finally putting it together, I'll turn the camera back on and we'll look at the final. This really was a fun and interesting project, considering I've never done anything like this before in my life. Because this is as natural a product as products get, these logs, they're, you have to make a lot of concessions and you have to put some thought into the layout of it, because the most attractive side is not always the straightest side, which is not always the best side that you want to show, but it's probably the one that's straight and will make this not look goofy and cockeyed. I don't know how well this is going to hold up, but I plan on sticking this on my back porch to hold firewood. That is where it's going. We'll have to see if that turns out to be a good idea or not. And there, we'll stand it up and it'll kind of tweak and bend. And that tenon's not really in all the way. It'll be interesting doing a more complex project than this. This is obviously almost as simple as it gets. There was a gun rack that was basically a frame with little short logs sticking out to hang guns on. I thought about doing that one, but I wanted something with at least some kind of structure that was self-standing. Well, I think I'll leave you there. I'm gonna clamp this together, and if it falls apart tomorrow, I guess I'll turn the camera back on before I post this video and let you know. But what do you guys think? These tenon cutters work amazing. And they look intimidating, but they're not. They're super easy to use. I never put the shims in them because they don't jerk. There's not a lot of pressure. You get them going, engage. because it starts on the edge of the log. It's not much, it doesn't grab much. You know, once you get in, you're at full speed, and it just takes a couple seconds to make one of these tenons. For a dead beginner from the city, I think it's pretty cool. I can't wait to make something else with these. We're gonna do that for sure. Whether I make a video out of it or not, or just show you the end result, we could do that maybe in a short. You guys tell me what you think. Check out the description below. There'll be links for all of this stuff for Lumberjack Tools website. I want to say thank you to them for sending this stuff over, and let me try this out and have a new experience with woodworking. You can always have a new experience, no matter how experienced you are. So you guys tell me what you think in the comments. Give me some tips. If you guys saw me do something stupid, you guys tell me. And I'm here to learn too. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.